can do it.
All right, it is 4:02 p.m. Good evening and welcome to the Commission's, the Commission on Police Practices monthly open meeting. I will go ahead and call the August 23rd, 2022 meeting of the City of San Diego's Commission on Police Practices to order. Next item we have on our agenda is roll call. I'll hand it over to Interim Executive Director Charmaine Mosley.
Chair Hilbert,
I'm here.
First Vice Chair Case,
Here.
Commissioner Dent. Here. Commissioner Harrington.
Here.
Commissioner Vaughn. Alina, can you text her and see if she's going to be joining us for the closed meeting? Thank you. And Commissioner Darrell Griffin is excused. Commissioner Spruce.
Here.
Commissioner Pink. And the same for Commissioner Pink, Alina. Thank you. And that completes the roll call. We have a quorum.
All
You
right.
didn't put your name, Ernestine.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Smith.
Yes, she's here.
Okay, and then Commissioner Shea.
Here.
Okay, now it completes roll call. We have a
Thank
quorum.
you.
Thank you.
All right,
But
thanks.
Brandon, did you say open meeting when you opened the meeting? Did you say open? Did anybody else hear
I
it?
believe I did.
Oh, I thought it was the close. Oh, right. I'm sorry. This part is the open. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
so again, we do an open session meeting.
I get it now. I get it.
To essentially have Dwayne will call us or make the recommendation for us to go into closed session to review cases. But there's a couple of bookkeeping items that we have to do before that. So our next
Oh, right.
one,
I just didn't, my mind just didn't get that far.
yep, no worries. So our next item, we have a discussion action item. Basically, every 30 days, we have to adopt a resolution authorizing the ratification of the continuance of teleconferencing for public meetings pursuant to Government Code 54953. Just as a heads up, because that basically there's going to be a period from now until I think it's September 12th, when the city council comes back in and they're going to basically bring that up to reauthorize that. So we will not be able to have any teleconferencing meetings between essentially the 1st and the 12th of September. So we will be going dark essentially for that, since we're not going to be able to hold video conference meetings. But there's going to be a motion. The motion is the Commission on Police Practices will adopt this resolution authorizing and ratifying the use of teleconferencing for all meetings, including its meeting of ad hoc or standing committees in accordance with Government Code Section 54953E and all other applicable provisions of the Brown Act for a period of 30 days from the adoption of this resolution, or till such a time that the Commission adopts a subsequent resolution in accordance with Government Code Section 54953E. The Interim Executive Director is directed to return no later than 30 days after the adoption of this resolution with an item for the legislative body consideration of those findings. So that's the motion. I will go ahead and make that motion. Can I get a second?
I second.
All right, thank you, Robin. And Charmaine, can you please call a vote?
First Vice Chair Case,
Yes.
Commissioner Vaughn, is she here? Not yet. Commissioner Dent,
Yes.
Commissioner Spruce,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrington,
Yes.
Commissioner Frame,
Yes.
Commissioner Darrell Griffin is excused. Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark is also excused. Chair Hilbert
I will vote yes.
and Commissioner Pink is not here yet, so he's excused. Motion passes. The vote is 7-0-0.
All right. And then again, just a correction. I think I said September 1st officially. It's any city board or commission meeting held between September 2nd and when the city council potentially adopts the new findings, which would be on September 12th, that we will not be able to have teleconferencing done during that time. So if we were to have a meeting, it would have to be in person. And also several of us, Charmaine, myself, Doug, and Kevin, and I think I heard Robin, are you going to it as well, the NACO conference? So several of us are going to actually be in Dallas, Texas during some of that time. So we would not be able to have in-person meetings anyway. So realistically, the commission will be dark for meetings for probably the first 2 weeks or so of September. All right, with that, next item is public comment. I don't know if we received any public comments through our web form.
No public comment received.
All right, and I don't see any members of the public here for anyone to participate in public comment. But I will open it up to any commissioners who want to raise their hand if you have public comment. And I'm not seeing any. So what we'll do is, because we have a set time on the agenda until 4:10 to do public comment, I think, Dwayne, you can probably make the recommendation to call us into closed session, but then we'll stay on until 4:10. So Dwayne, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Chair. There'd be a recommendation to proceed into closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54-957 to discuss charges or complaints protected and deemed confidential under Penal Code Sections 832.5 through 832.8, Evidence Code Section 1040. There would be a recommendation to go into closed session to discuss various cases.
All right. And we can wait about 2 more minutes for for anyone else to join in and do public comment, and then we will go into closed session. So just as a heads up, I just got a text from Maxine. She's actually already in the closed session meeting. So she, I think, just trying to join the wrong, the wrong Zoom link. So we'll see her when we go into closed session.
Anyone heard from Nancy?
Yes, she said she'll be joining soon.
Okay.
All right, and with that, it is 4:10. So we'll go ahead and adjourn the open session, and we will report back after our closed session. Yep, Robin, I think I see your hand up. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the continuation of the Commission on Police Practices open session meeting for August the 23rd. I will go ahead and call this session back to order. So for the first item we have is the report out from our closed session. And with that, I will turn that over to our outside counsel, Dwayne.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Chair. The commission met in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54-957 to discuss cases regarding complaints or charges against officers that are protected from public disclosure pursuant to Penal Code Sections 832.5 through 832.8 and Evidence Code Section 1040. The commission met and discussed the cases. Direction was provided. There is no reportable action, and that will conclude my closed session report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next item up is the purpose of the Commission on Police Practices. The purpose of the Commission on Police Practices is to provide an independent investigation of officer-involved shootings and in-custody deaths, and an unbiased evaluation of all complaints against San Diego Police Department and its personnel, in a process that will be transparent and accountable to the community. The commission will also evaluate and review SDPD policies, practices, training, and protocols, and represent the community in making recommendations for changes. The mission of the commission is to hold law enforcement accountable to the community and to increase community trust in law enforcement, resulting in increased safety for both the community and law enforcement. And with that, the next item we have is the approval of meeting minutes. We have 3 of them on here. So we have the meeting minutes of July 26th, August 9th, and August 16th. I think these are fairly simple. So unless there is an objection, I'm thinking we can vote for all of these at the same time, but are there any edits or revisions to either of these 3 meeting minutes? All right, not seeing anyone. Can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
We have a motion by Nancy and a second.
I second.
And a second by Robin. So we're going to vote to approve all three, July 26th, August 9th, and August 16th. Charmaine, can you call a vote, please?
Sorry, I was muted. First Vice Chair Case,
Yes.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Yes.
Commissioner Dent, Commissioner Dent.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Spruce,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrington,
Yes.
Commissioner Shea,
Yes.
Commissioner Pink,
Yes.
Chair Hilbert.
I will abstain.
Motion passes 701.
All right. And then moving on to non-agenda public comment. If there's anyone, we have 4 attendees and I see one has their hand up. If anyone has non-agenda public comment, go ahead, please raise your hand. You will have 2 minutes to speak. Give me 1 second, Kate, and I will actually, if you can make me a co-host, I can let Kate speak. There we go. All right, Kate, you're up.
Hello, everybody. This is Kate Yavandetti. I'm with Women Occupy San Diego and the National Lawyers Guild. At a meeting with Mayor Gloria a couple weeks ago, we were told that the meet and confer was basically over and that the Measure B ordinance would be out by the end of the recess, by the end of August or early September. And we've heard nothing since that time about whether it's out or not. We are concerned because neither the CPP nor the community was represented at the meet and confer. Only the POA and the city attorney, who of course represents the police department, and the city itself. No one who has any understanding of how the CPP works or any understanding of independent civilian oversight at all. Your request to have your legal counsel involved was rejected, which is ridiculous in my view. We have heard that the POA got everything they wanted out of the meet and confer, but we will see. Our ask to you is that you do everything you can to get this ordinance, once it's released, as soon as possible. Get it out to your group, to the CPP, get it out to the transition committee so that the transition committee can then get it out to the public so that we can look it over and have our comments. We anticipate that both you and the community will have a lot of comments that we will want to present at city council meeting. City council is only required to give us 72 hours advance notice, which we know, of course, is not adequate. So that's just our ask to you. I'm sure that you're going to be on top of it, but we're told it's coming. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Kate. And I don't see any other hands up for non-agenda public comments. So with that, we will move on over to our educational and training session for today. We've actually had a quick meeting about a week or so ago with the city auditor's office and talked about what they had presented to city council. They've obviously worked with the police department on their audit of body cameras. And with that, we thought it'd be something that'd be helpful for the community and the rest of the commission to be able to kind of get a copy of their presentation, which is available online. And we've already sent that out to all of our commissioners. But on top of that, we wanted to allow the opportunity for a question and answer period as well. So with that, our presenters with the city auditor's office, it's Andy, and if I pronounce her name wrong, I apologize, Henu, Matt Helm, and Daniel Christ. So with that, I will hand it over to you guys. And do you guys need to share your screen for presentations? I don't know if that's already been allowed for you guys.
Yeah, give her a second to get it up. There
Okay,
we go.
yep, perfect.
All right, well, good evening, Chair Hilpert, members of the commission. I'm Andy Hanow, City Auditor. Thanks for the invitation to be here this evening. We're here to present our audit of the San Diego Police Department's use and management of body cameras. First, I do want to thank Chief Nislight, Captain Grubbs, Captain Jordan, and everyone else at SDPD who worked with us to get all the data we needed, access to the videos we needed, ride-alongs. It was quite a lot of work on their end, so we really appreciate all their help and cooperation. We also appreciate the commission's leadership during the early stages of the audit. The audit team with me today is Assistant City Auditor Matt Helm and Performance Auditor Danielle Kish. And I also want to recognize the audit team for the excellent work they did here on a very challenging and very important topic. The work our team did here is unmatched by any other body camera audit that we found. The team analyzed nearly 2 million records, watched 450 body camera videos, conducted more than a dozen interviews with STPD, and also benchmarked with several other agencies. So with that, I'll turn it over to them for the details, and then we can take questions.
Great, thanks, Andy. Good evening, Chair Hilpert, members of the commission. I'm Matt Helm, Assistant City Auditor. I'd just like to add my thanks to Andy's, to Chief Nislight and the rest of our PD colleagues. Thank them for their professionalism, more importantly, their transparency throughout the audit. So we had good cooperation throughout. So as you can see here, we made 7 recommendations in this audit. PD agreed to implement all 7, subject to a number of considerations, which you'll hear a little bit more about this evening. So by way of background, so I'll just state the obvious. So our law enforcement officers face many dangerous and stressful situations while on duty. Certainly a point that was driven home to us in reviewing hundreds of hours of body camera footage. But as this commission is well aware, body cameras have become an increasingly common tool to enhance officer safety, increase trust in the communities our officers serve, and capture important evidence in the event of a crime or in situations such as use of force incidents. So to the department's credit, as you can see here, PD was an early adopter of body camera usage. PD began rolling out their program in about July 2014 and was among the first major cities to do so. So let's jump into the findings, and I'll try and go through these as quickly as we can. So in finding 1, we looked at the data to see if officers were recording the events that they were required to record based on current policy. STPD procedure requires officers to record enforcement encounters and begin recording on the way to calls that have the potential to involve an enforcement encounter. So I should note that, as Andy indicated early in the audit, we talked to this commission's leadership, who referred us to your, June 2021 memo that indicated commission members had observed officers failing to activate their cameras and that the issue was becoming more commonplace. So for our specific audit, we looked at the data across a year's worth of incidents and found that 40% of officers dispatched to incidents that likely required officers to record with their body camera did not have a record of a video for that incident. And so this was based on an analysis of nearly 2 million dispatch records for the period that covered October 1st, 2020 to September 30th, 2021. So to build upon our initial analyses, we dug further into the data that PD was able to provide us and looked at specific call types that would be clear enforcement encounters. For example, 29% of officers dispatched to calls that ended in arrest did not have a record of a body camera video. And that number was 41% for battery dispatches, 42% for assault with deadly weapon dispatches. So what is the likely cause here? Well, we found that the most likely cause is that PD's policy requires officers to determine which calls have the potential to involve an enforcement contact. In comparison to other cities, certain other cities simply require officers to begin recording on the way to all dispatches and all calls for service. So under this scenario, officers are more likely to record all enforcement encounters, and officers can begin recording on their way there, rather than to have to begin recording when a call turns into an enforcement action encounter, and it may not be safe to start recording. So the graphic here, I think, is a pretty good one. I'm not sure if everyone can see it, but it illustrates kind of the as is and the recommended future state. As we noted, PD agreed to our recommendations, but raised some concerns about recording all dispatch calls. These are set forth in the report in greater detail and in PD's response, but I'll highlight a couple listed on the slide. In terms of the citizen privacy concerns, our recommendation contemplates that SDPD should be able to determine situations that officers should not record, such as interviews with confidential informants or interviews with crime victims or witnesses that do not wish to be recorded. Additionally, as PD points out, implementing this recommendation would also require meet and confer with POA, which we believe is an opportunity to further refine the policy. We maintain that these and other concerns discussed in the report are surmountable and worth addressing so we can reduce the percent of officers, percent of missing body camera videos for enforcement incidents. So I'll hand it over to Danielle to cover the rest of our findings. Danielle, you may be on
There we
mute.
go. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. So I'm Danielle Kish, a performance auditor on this project. In findings 2 and 3, we wanted to determine if officers were following the policies in place. To do so, we watched and analyzed a representative random sample of 288 body camera videos that included many different call types. We found that in 30% of videos in our sample, officers did not begin recording on the way to the call as required. We also found that officers stopped recording before the incident had concluded in 38% of the videos we watched. Recording the whole incident from starting on time to ending the video once the contact is over is important because it provides more complete video evidence of the encounter to help investigate complaints and increases public trust. We believe the recommendation from finding 1 for officers to record all dispatch calls will reduce the number of videos officers start late. We also recommended that SDPD should clarify in its procedure when officers can stop recording and provide examples defining when an incident has concluded. In finding 3, we use the same sample of videos we watched for finding 2 to ensure the videos were categorized correctly. After each recording, officers manually select a category for each video. It is important for officers to categorize videos correctly because that determines how long the videos are kept. Examples of video categories include traffic stops, pedestrian stops, and videos recorded accidentally. We found that the majority of videos were categorized correctly. We also found that the vast majority of videos were kept as long as required. Both of these findings are good news. Finally, we did find that SDPD procedure keeps videos that are categorized as accidental recordings for just 1 week. However, California law recommends SDPD keep these videos for a minimum of 60 days. Therefore, we recommended SDPD keep the videos categorized as accidental for a minimum of 60 days, and that supervisors review these videos to ensure they were accidental recordings before they are deleted. This will reduce the risk that video evidence is deleted too soon because an officer categorized the video as having been accidentally recorded. Our last finding, finding 4, we looked at how SDPD releases body camera videos to the public. First, we found that there is a lot of public confusion about when SDPD releases body camera videos and who makes the decisions on release. We believe there is confusion because SDPD does not have a detailed public-facing policy on what types of body camera videos it releases and when. We looked at the incidents in which California law requires SDPD to release body camera video and found that SDPD released the videos it had determined were most relevant for each incident. SDPD states that they do not have to release all videos of the incident when requested and releases videos in consultation with the city attorney's office. As we summarize in a table in the background section of the report, California law requires SDPD to release body camera videos for specific incidents upon request, including officer-involved shootings, uses of force that result in great bodily injury or death, and sustained findings of sexual assault, dishonesty, and excessive force. SDPD is also required to release videos for the types of sustained findings listed on this slide. The law allows cities to delay releasing these videos while there is an ongoing investigation, or if releasing the video could interfere with a criminal proceeding. The law requires cities to release body camera videos for these incidents upon request, but for all other types of incidents, it leaves it up to the cities to decide. If the body camera video is not related to any of the incidents listed, SDPD's current procedure is that the body camera video is not released unless the release is approved by the chief of police. We also looked at the critical incident videos SDPD releases for officer-involved shootings. These are the videos you see SDPD post after shootings that are often a composite of multiple body camera videos. We looked at a year's worth of officer-involved shooting videos that SDPD released the critical incident video for. We found, of the 5 officer-involved shootings in our scope, SDPD released each critical incident video within 10 days of the shooting, as is their goal. This is faster than the state requirement, as California law requires the release within 45 days. We also watched the body camera footage from all of the officers at the scene who were recording during the incident, and found that the critical incident videos included all pertinent body camera video footage. We did not find any additional video footage that would have substantially changed the impact or conclusions of the critical incident videos we reviewed. However, we did find that in some situations, the underlying body camera footage held additional context that was not included in the critical incident video, such as the events that led up to the officer-involved shooting or additional angles of the incident. To clear confusion around the release of body camera videos, we recommended that SDPD write, implement, and publish a policy detailing what body camera videos it releases and when, including its deadline for releasing critical incident videos. Again, SDPD agreed to implement all recommendations. The audit committee accepted our report and forwarded it to the Public Safety and Livable Neighborhoods Committee. We'll present there likely on October 6th, and then from there, we'll present the audit to the whole council. We're happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you very much. And then I just want to give a quick heads up on this. We do have later in our meeting, there's a policy agenda item where we're basically re-recommending a few things, but we also note out that if SDPD does implement all of the city auditor's recommendations, that it would actually surpass what our recommendations were. So we'll be talking about that a little bit later in the meeting, but I want to open it up first to commissioners to ask questions, and then we have some members of the public. If they want to ask a question, I'll look for their hands to be raised. So are there any questions from the commission? First up, I see Nancy. Go ahead.
I don't have a question. I want to tell you guys, this is one of the best reports I ever read, ever. Thank you so very much. You did a grand, wonderful job.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Have any other questions? I guess you guys did such a thorough job and we've all read your report that we have no questions. But I think as you did point out in your report, we did send out a memo and then we did have an interview with you guys and we talked about some of the things that we'd seen. And I noticed that pretty much everything that we had raised as a concern on our side is something that you guys had raised within your audit. So I do think that, we did, I don't say we worked well together. You guys did all the work, but we, I think, shared some information together. And I know you obviously worked with the police department very closely on this as well. So thank you very much for the report. And since I don't see any other hands up, I think you guys are off the hook.
All right, we like those kind. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
No, thanks very much for attending. Appreciate it. All right, moving on is the next item is unfinished business. Kind of following up what we talk about every month. It's just kind of going over what we have for our feedback on how we're triaging our cases, the streamlined case reports, and trying to make sure that we're getting the case reports completed early enough that we can actually have our staff, our commission staff, do the officer notifications to make sure the officers are aware that if they choose, they can ask to have their case heard before open session, not closed. I think it's all going pretty well, but I wanted to give an opportunity to any of the commissioners to raise their hand, raise any questions, concerns that they may have. So with that, any concerns, questions, thoughts? Doug.
It isn't really a concern, it's more of a thought. Our team has identified which cases we want to triage in terms of not do a full report, instead do a summary report, but we are focusing on getting the immediate cases written up, and so it may be a while before we go back and get caught up by writing the summary reports. And I'm not sure if other teams are in the same situation as well, but once we are able to take a breather, then we'll go back and get the cases that we weren't able to get to earlier.
Yeah, and again, for any members of the public that are watching, part of what we're trying to do is we do have a backlog, but we're trying to find a way to be more efficient. So if we review a case and in general, we feel that Internal Affairs has done a perfectly good job, but we don't have any concerns, we agree with their finding, we feel the investigation was thorough and complete, that instead of writing a huge report on our side, we're doing a little bit more of a quick summary of here's what happened, here's what the allegations are, and then we'll restate, Internal Affairs found the allegation to be whatever, sustained, exonerated, et cetera, and the team agrees, and that way we're able to try to hopefully write those reports a little bit quicker and move them through our queue more efficiently. So Nancy.
So I've been looking at cases, and when I find one that suits me that I can do that short report on, I just do it because writing the report is so easy. So I'm really thrilled with being able to do that, and I just do it right away. So that's just the way I'm handling it for my team.
Yeah, and I actually, this last weekend, I reviewed some of Nancy's where she did that. And I think the way she wrote those up, once we actually present in closed session, it's efficient, it's to the point, it doesn't belabor the issue, and it allows us to kind of address cases that might be more complicated or might have more serious issues that we need to maybe go back to IA on. So I think we're good on that.
The other thing, Brandon, I was going to mention, I actually use our template, our regular report, filling out the first part of it, the part where you have all the officers listed and do an incident summary. That's part of my triage. I go through and do all that, and then I understand where the complaint came from and make sure the allegations are right. And right from then on, it's so easy to write. So I use our format because I really like it. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, any other final comments from anyone on that? All right, not seeing any. The next item we have is new business. We have, and I'll probably just share my screen since if we want to make edits, I can just do it in the Word doc directly. But I have drafted a policy from what came out of our policy committee meeting. We basically are reproposing a few of the recommendations we made based on the department's feedback. And so I wanted, I don't know if all of you have had a chance to read that yet, but let me just share the screen real quick. What I wanted to do was just get all of us to review, comment on this, and then if we're all in agreement, we can go ahead and send this off. So what I had basically done here is I tried to block out each section as kind of a separate paragraph. So the first one, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, the department in a lot of ways did do some of the stuff that we had already asked for. One of the things that I did want to point out was we asked that, or somebody skipped down ahead. With this one specifically, we asked for something to be kind of much more limited than what the city auditor asked for. We were essentially asking that they extend that buffering to include audio. Now, I do understand that the department reached out to BART and Axon. Axon's the company that provides the equipment and the storage for that. And I understand that the department was told what we were told was not completely accurate. So some of that's a little bit different, but that being said, if SDPD fully implements all the city auditor's recommendations, basically our recommendations moot, because if essentially as soon as an officer is dispatched to a call and they're activating their cameras, that whole buffer thing that we're asking for isn't really necessary anymore. So basically what I put on this first paragraph here was that implementation, this is the very last 3 sentences, implementation of the city auditor's 7 BWC recommendations will go beyond the commission's recommendation. The commission supports the city auditor's recommendation and encourages them to be implemented as soon as possible. I don't really think this is very controversial, so I'm going to guess this is probably an easy one to move forward. But what I will do is if anyone has questions or suggested edits, feel free to raise your hand or just speak up and I will type them as we go. And if I don't hear anything, I guess I'll just assume that we're approved as is. All right, not seeing anything on that one, so I'm going to move to the next one, the body worn camera auditing. So our initial recommendation was that we asked that supervisory staff actually review by watching the body cameras rather than just confirming that if an officer had X number of enforcement contacts, they had the same number of body camera videos. At the time, we were told that based upon the MOU between the police officers union, the police department, and the city, that it would prohibit command staff from proactively reviewing body camera videos absent a complaint or a justified reason to view the footage. Now, I was a little bit concerned on this and brought this up in the policy committee meeting is because what we were told kind of doesn't necessarily jive with what they told the city auditor. And they've said that they're going to implement recommendation number 5, which is that a supervisor will review the body camera videos, including watching all video categories as BWC accidental or training. It's a little bit different than what we said. That specifically is just saying that if an officer marked it as an accidental or training video, that a supervisor would watch that to make sure that was being categorized properly. So I guess, and I know we have, Executive Chief McGrath is here, and I know, Chief, you had some concerns and you felt there were some inaccuracies when we had our policy committee meeting. So if you want to chime in and share any feedback on that, I'm obviously happy to let you have the floor and touch base on that. But we, I think as a commission, would still feel that as long as the MOU would allow it, we feel that having supervisory staff actually watch those videos to audit to make sure that they're being categorized properly and recorded properly, we think that would be appropriate. Anyone from IA or the department, do you want to chime in on that at all?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so part of the problem is, and it's really not a problem, it's just a matter of communicating with the POA, is that we can't change their work conditions. And the whole meet and confer when this BWC first came up was that they did not want fishing expeditions. They didn't want supervisors just going into people's BWC catalog and just randomly taking a look at what they're doing, hoping or possibly finding some evidence of misconduct just randomly. So the agreement behind this BWC was that they were all for it. They just didn't want those types of actions occurring at the command level. So that's how we kind of got past some of the hurdles with the BWC and the implementation, and then obviously the coordination and management of that. So with this, and I just talked to operational support today to confirm that, this would have to be something that we would have to just run by the POA to ask them what their opinion is of this. And then if they don't have a problem with it, then we certainly don't have a problem with it either. But, one of the things I think is really kind of important, especially as you're moving towards an independence, is that, I'm going to defer to your legal counsel on this, but there's no reason why you guys can't reach out to them as well and ask them the same questions. I mean, what their opinions are of this, because it almost kind of seems like we're becoming the agent between CPP and POA. And when the CPP or the POA get a little upset about our questions or get accepted about our answers, it's really kind of counterproductive. So I would just kind of maybe put that out there as something to think about as a commission. And I don't know if it would be appropriate. Obviously, your legal counsel can advise you on that. But I think on this BWC is a perfect example of where I think there's some discussions that have taken place where CPP doesn't believe that the PD is providing accurate information. And I think the POA is dependent upon the department to protect their POBAR rights and their membership. So we're always caught in the middle on this. But the bottom line is that if the POA is in agreement with it, then we're going to be implementing these policies.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Yep, that's all I got on that. And I'm trying to get the video thing, and the video is not helping me here. So I'll continue to work on it.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so I'll actually reach out to the POA as well. I know from CAB, they participate there, and I have had some informal conversations with Sergeant or Detective Wilson. I can reach out to them and at least see what their thoughts are on that as well.
Yeah, and they have legal counsel as well. So I mean, if there was questions of legality, I mean, they have their representation, and then they have their people that can give them sound advice. But I just think as you guys are moving towards independence, taking us out of the middle might be easier for you.
I think part of it though too is we typically work with you guys directly as the department, because you guys are the ones that ultimately draft that policy. And then I know it obviously has to go to the city HR and all that, and the meet confer piece. We get that. We're not the ones that would initiate that piece. So that's kind of why I think we've historically always worked directly with the police department. But
yeah, Yeah, and I think another part to that too is, Brandon, is that, and I don't know if if everybody realizes this, is that once we draft the policy, it goes through so much legal review, not only in the department, but also downtown at HR. And then once HR has kind of, taken a look at what it is that we're trying to do and added their 2 cents, it goes directly over to the POA for their, for them to take a look at it to make sure that they don't believe that there's any issues with the policy in regards to changing the employees' work conditions. So there's it's changed over the years, but it's really quite cumbersome now to even put a policy together and get it drafted, put it on paper and on our public website in a timely manner anymore because of these processes that have been put in place. And I think we've had these discussions before. So so the POA is never eliminated from these conversations, but they're at the end of it. So if they can be at the front end of these conversations, I think that will be helpful for you to kind of understand what their viewpoint is. So when you're drafting your policies, you get a sense of where they're at, is what I'm saying.
Yep, fair enough. Moving on to the next item. This is something initially the department didn't really implement as we had hoped. So the nexus of this one is if someone files a complaint against SDPD leadership, there can potentially be a conflict of interest. So we had recommended, and at the time we were told that there was kind of an informal process. Initially, we were asking for that process to be formalized and in a written process that would be, essentially either updated in 1.10, which is the complaints procedure. But when they responded, they basically told us that there is no informal process. It's just every officer and every member of the department is subject to that exact same policy. So what I put here in the second paragraph, the commission still believes there should be a clear written procedure, and again, perhaps added to the complaints procedure, which is 1.10, that details the circumstances and the details of how those complaints will be investigated and by whom. Additionally, the commission reiterates that we believe any complaint against SDPD, a SDPD captain or above should be subject to this procedure. So I think when we had the discussion in policy, I think all of these were pretty much unanimous. The concern right now is the response that we had received, and that's available on our website. Basically just said, every officer, and whether it's someone that's out in the field all the way up to the chief, everyone is subject to that exact same policy. If there's a conflict of interest and the city attorney agrees, at that point, there would be some other city department that could be used to investigate or resolve that complaint. But the policy committee felt that there should still be a clear procedure set up that addresses this specific issue. So with that, I want to open up to any commissioners to chime in if you have concerns, questions, agreement. All right, I'm not hearing anything, so I'm going to assume silence is that there's no concerns. And again, SDPD, if you guys want to chime in on any of these, please feel free. The other one we had was some changes and modifications to the discipline manual and the matrix. First off, as I was starting to say a little bit earlier, got ahead of myself. We did want to thank the department because we had actually asked that after a discipline is given to an officer, that discipline memo needed to be given to us, or that memo needed to be completed within 14 days. And they actually shortened that and they said within 10. So that one I think is good. And I think, again, I appreciate the department for going beyond what we actually had asked for. We did have several others, and it looks like the formatting is a little bit off, so I'll fix that before we send this out. The commission at that point also recommended that the discipline manual be reviewed, any errors or conflicting statements be corrected. We had understood that there were some errors where it allowed some discipline to not be issued in time because it told the command that essentially a verbal notification to an officer was sufficient when it actually had to be written. And at the time, SDPD's response basically said that all manuals are reviewed on an annual basis. Since then, we've actually understood that the discipline manual is being completely rewritten. I don't know if it's as we speak, but it's in the process of being completely rewritten. So what I was putting here is about halfway through that first paragraph. The commission encourages SDPD to consider incorporating the following revisions to the discipline manual. And these are all things that we already made as recommendations. The discipline matrix lists a catch-all minor policy violation category. The commission would like to collaborate with the department to help clarify this category of misconduct with a clear definition of what that misconduct is as well as provide a non-exclusive list of examples. For example, minor policy violation can include, but is not limited to, and then we could possibly put out, a couple examples there. The next bullet item there is the discipline matrix also lists a single excessive force category that does not include excessive force, which causes an injury. The commission recommends adding at least one additional category for excessive force causing injury, with the discipline starting at suspension. And that discipline is what would essentially be the second instance of a sustained finding for excessive force that does not cause injury. So those were some of our base recommendations. And then also, since the department is working on doing a new draft of that manual and matrix, I put this last paragraph in here that the commission would also encourage the department to share the proposed draft of the discipline manual and the matrix with the commission prior to meet and confer. The idea behind that is if we happen to see something that we had concerns with, or we wanted to make some suggested changes, that we could actually be part of that process and work collaboratively with the department before it gets too far along the process, and we'd have to start the whole thing over if we had additional recommendations or feedback. So with that, I want to open that up to any commissioner comments or feedback. And again, all of these were agreed to by the policy committee unanimously. All right, not seeing any hands raised, so I'm going to move on. This other item here, the formation of disciplinary tracking. One of the things that we realized when we got the response from the police department is I think maybe the way we proposed the recommendation, or because obviously it was in a memo, I think they thought we were asking for something different than we were actually asking for. They noted in their response that it would go against POBAR, the police officer, or the Peace Officer Bill of Rights, that essentially you can't red flag an officer. So you can't say Officer Smith has, 4 or 5 findings, sustained findings, et cetera. That wasn't really what we were asking for. What we were going to recommend is that there be some kind of a process that after a sustained finding is issued by internal affairs or command, that there's a way that tracks to make sure that that sustained finding has gone through the process, and that command has gone through what they need to go through. They've looked at the discipline manual and the matrix. They've issued that discipline. They've issued it to that officer, and they've also written the memo, which then will eventually come back to us. That's really what we're going for. We weren't trying to say we want to have this all-inclusive list of officers who have sustained findings. We're just trying to make sure that once an officer does have a sustained finding, that that discipline is appropriately applied in a timely manner. So what I was proposing here was that that very last sentence, that the commission would be happy to discuss this further, satisfy the needs of all parties, and we resubmit this recommendation for consideration. So we also have typically every 2 to 3 months, the leadership of the commission does have a meeting with the leadership at the department. And so I would propose we actually touch base on this at that meeting. Right now, it's looking like we'd probably be doing that the first week of October, unless schedules change. Because the idea here is we don't want the department to be doing anything that would violate POBAR, but we also want to make sure that discipline is being, fairly and correctly applied to officers once they have sustained findings. So are there any questions or concerns on that one? Okay, not seeing any hands raised. I added this one in here as well, and I think the chief kind of just made a comment about that. There are several recommendations that we have made and the department has accepted, but those policy and procedure changes have not yet been updated online and actually gone through the whole process. And so I think part of what the chief was saying is once they've agreed to make that policy recommendation, they have to draft that policy recommendation. Then I believe it goes to the city's HR. Actually, probably goes to the police department's legal first, then it goes to city HR, then it goes to meet and confer. So it is a lengthy process. But we did have 2 items here that the department had already agreed to implement that we're still waiting to see those being updated. The last I heard is I believe that these are kind of in the queue and waiting to be implemented. And I think when I was told by Captain Jordan that he was expecting within a couple of weeks, hopefully that would be back to the process. So I just put these in here just as items that were still outstanding.
So I did talk to him this afternoon before the meeting, Brandon, and he said these things are coming up very quickly. So hopefully we'll have these out within the next couple of weeks. Like he said, we're going to be hopefully at the end of the week, we'll get a little bit more of a definitive time that we're going to see them. But if we don't see them by next Tuesday or Wednesday, then we're going to be going down and talking to our partners in the city to get that pushed out as quickly as possible.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate the update on that. So with that, I didn't really hear, as we were going through this memo, I didn't hear any suggested edits or revisions or changes. So since I drafted this memo, I will make the motion to approve.
Second,
And a second by Nancy. Charmaine, can you call a vote, please?
First Vice Chair Case,
Yes,
Commissioner Vaughn,
yes.
Commissioner Dent,
Yes.
Commissioner Spruce,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrington. Is he not here? Okay,
Commissioner Pink says yes.
okay, noted. Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Smart, Commissioner Clark is not here. Chair Hilbert,
I'll vote yes.
motion passes. Vote is 7-0.
All right. Next one up is the committee chair reports. So first up is Nancy with continuing education.
So there's a list of topics we want to bring to the open meetings, and I'm open to suggestion from anybody about other subjects that we should be looking at. Appreciate everybody who has helped put together, like the one tonight was just super. So thank you for putting that together. I guess that was Charmaine. Anyway, I don't have anything other than what's on this list.
I do have one little update here. I have reached out to the county. So about 5 years ago, at the time it was the CRB, but members of the CRB were able to go get a tour of the medical examiner's office. So I reached out to them to see if we can go ahead and get one of those scheduled again. So hopefully in the next week or so, they're going to give us a couple dates that would work. They had basically said they try to do them around 2 o'clock because that works a little bit better for them. I had asked if we could possibly do something around lunchtime, just because many of our commissioners work full time, and at least that way they could kind of do it at a lunch break. And then I also reached out to the sheriff's department to see if we could get another tour of the central jail facilities. And again, I think we probably did that one, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, which I think is important for commissioners to be able to have that experience, because most of us have probably never been in a jail facility. And I think it's important to kind of see how that process works, how when someone who's detained, how they get booked through the jail process, what it's like. And so I'm working with them to try to get that scheduled as well. So once I have that information, I'll be sharing that with the commission, and I would encourage anyone who's interested to be able to go on those. All right, Robin, your first report out as outreach chair.
I don't have any actual movement to report. My first step is going to be to reach out to some of the community partners that Patrick was working so closely with to see topics that they would like to see covered in community forums. I also have some ideas around restorative justice and how we can bring some of those philosophies into our oversight. And I'm planning specifically to reach out to the district attorney's office. They actually have a restorative justice specialist who works with them. So those are my 2 first steps, are going to be reaching out to community folks that have been actively involved with us for a long time, and see what they would like to see us talk about and work on. And then work on this restorative justice piece, partnering with some of the agencies that already do the work really well.
Sounds great. Thanks, Charmaine.
All right. One of the things that we used to do in the past as CRB members pre-COVID was to see if there were any community events that were happening that we could actually participate in. So that might be something, Robin, I don't know if you're interested in trying to put together a list, or if anybody has any events that they think that the commission might be willing to go to. That's something that I would recommend that we do as well.
Sure, yeah, that can be a talking point when I reach out to the organizations.
Great, thank you.
All right, Rules Committee. I don't really think, Doug, we have much with rules right now. So I
That's
think-
correct.
Yeah, I think the only thing is we're pretty much waiting until the commission is fully completed and implemented by the city council. So really all that's kind of on hold, as is the handbook committee, policy committee. We do have 2 recommendations for some policy recommendations that are coming up. So I'll work with the committee to try to get that scheduled out. We can't do any meetings over Zoom or teleconference, basically from the 1st of September till the 12th, until the city council reapproves that. And then many of us are going to be at the NACOL conference, so we're probably not going to be able to do anything probably until the week of, I think it's the 19th, Monday the 19th, I believe. So we'll probably be doing it sometime towards the end of September. I think Kevin left, but for recruitment and training, I don't believe there's too many updates on that. The one thing that we are trying to do is at least get people who are interested in possibly becoming a commissioner. So we at least have their information on file. And then once we know what the criteria has been settled upon by city council after the implementation ordinance is done, then we at least know what we're looking for when it comes to candidates for commissioners. And at that point, we'll be reaching out to them to see what we can do to try to get that process started to get new commissioners on. Again, a lot of that all depends on the implementation ordinance, when that actually gets completed, when it gets voted on, and then we obviously have to have some time to be able to get that work done. For the Citizens Advisory Board, I wasn't attending that, but I did watch the video. Executive Chief McGrath actually gave quite a lengthy kind of overview of what's going on with the police department. I kind of have a couple notes here. He did talk about the staffing levels of the department and overall response times with 911 calls. He did indicate there were a couple seconds higher for 911 calls than we were about 2 years ago. He talked about field training officers and how that's going forward with trying to get more field training officers due to the shortages. He touched base high level on some of the recent homicides and shooting events. What else? Yeah, so there was a question about Miranda rights. He basically, and Chief McGrath, if I misspeak or if I misquote you, please feel free to correct me. But there was a question about Miranda rights and whether or not, given the Supreme Court ruling, how that impacted San Diego. And then Chief McGrath did say that if a suspect or a detainee is going to be questioned about something, that the department still does do their Miranda rights. And then they also talked a little bit about the surveillance technology and use by SDPD. And there was a question about how that varies from what the federal government does. And basically he deferred that to the feds to answer that. If they had questions specifically about federal surveillance, that's something that the department can't answer. Other than that, they also, the chair of CAB, Samantha Jenkins, she did kind of do a Racial Profiling Act meeting discussion. She also did a survey for some community groups of what they're seeing from what people are asking for the police department. And ironically, they actually showed that the number 2 issue was under policing, not over policing. It wasn't a big, huge group of people, but she did ask all the various CAB members to go out to their respective communities and try to survey them and see what those issues are. But that's something that they were actually finding is that a lot of times it's the unhoused issue was the biggest one, followed by under policing. And I think that was pretty much it. Let's scan through my notes. Oh, there was also a presentation by a special agent of the FBI about hate crimes. So if anyone's interested in that, I would definitely say go check out their YouTube video because it's about 2 hours long, but there's a lot of good information in there. And they also talked about the PROTECT Act that's working through the process. That was from the ACLU and MOGO. I'm forgetting its Moral Governance. I can't remember the exact name of the group, but MOGO is the group. So those were the main items from CAB. Again, if anyone's interested, I know we sent out that link to everyone on the commission. So if you want to watch that video, I highly recommend it. And with that, I will pass it on over to Doug for the Ad Hoc Transition Committee.
Okay, we will be having another committee meeting this coming Friday at 12:30. And then we'll be taking a break because of the COVID rules for virtual meetings. On the agenda for this week, we have our first draft of the investigation guidelines, which we've been able to develop with the help of Dwayne, and we'll be going over those, but we can't finalize those, excuse me, until the implementation ordinance is done, because some of them will need to be may need to be modified depending upon what the language of the implementation ordinance is. We also have developed or updated our timeline for the implementation. And it's included in your meeting packet. You'll note that it's version 11.1, so we continue to revise it as we move along. It is not a policy document, it is more of a planning document, and it indicates the sequence of all the things that need to happen in order to fully implement a Measure B. Some of the highlights of things that are upcoming. First, obviously, is the implementation ordinance, which we hope will be completed in the next couple of months. It'll have to go through 2 readings, and then it becomes effective 30 days thereafter. And then after that has been adopted, then we can submit to the city council to implement our investigation guidelines. Those require city council approval and will also require a meet and confer. And we envision that that meet and confer will take several months. In terms of staffing, we are in the process of hiring, not hiring, but beginning the recruitment process for the community engagement coordinator and the supervising investigator. And then the next executive position that'll be hired will be the deputy executive director. And after we have the supervising investigator on board and the deputy executive director on board, we will hire the people that will report to them. Obviously, the investigators for the supervising investigator and the policy analyst and the performance auditor for the deputy executive director. We're moving ahead with office space. And I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong here, Brandon, but I think it's 525 B Street. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And we have in our timeline that we hope to have staff be able to move in November. That may be a little bit optimistic, but that's what we're aiming toward. So by the time we have the new staff hired, we'll have a place to put them. And then after the implementation ordinance has been approved by the city council and goes into effect, then the recruitment process would take place for the permanent commission members. And we're estimating that process will be completed and the appointment process will be completed by March of next year, March of 2023. That also is about the same time that we anticipate that we will have the investigation procedures approved and the staff hired. And so we also are estimating that by March of 2023, we will be able to begin our independent investigations. And then the final steps will be the hiring of the permanent executive director and the hiring of the in-house general counsel. And then the final step, assuming that the implementation ordinance includes a mediation program, will be the creation of the mediation program and then the hiring of the coordinator for that. And so if you're interested in all that, you can look at it in the attachments to the minutes. And I think that everything in my report was covered there. So that's it. Answers any questions.
I don't see any hands raised for questions, so we can go ahead and move on. For the chair's report, reminder that we all need to get our quarterly hours in. I fall under that bucket myself. I haven't done it in about 3 months. So if everyone can try to make sure we put our hours in there. Again, the purpose of that is I think it's really important for the city to know and the community to know how many hours as volunteers we're putting in on case review, meetings, community outreach, all that. We all are doing quite a lot of work as a volunteer. And I think it's important that when we do our report out that they actually realize how many hours of dedication that they're getting from the community and the commission. Charmaine, I see your hands up.
Yes, please feel free to reach out to Alina if there are any questions regarding logging in to the system and also logging into the mobile app.
The mobile app's pretty handy, but yeah, I find I put everything in my calendar and then I just go back and I just do it all at once, but everyone has kind of their own process of how it works best for you. The other thing is internal affairs, office hours and the schedule. Just a reminder, if for some reason we schedule something and something comes up and you have to change your plans, please make sure to let IA know. We have had a couple times where we've had a commissioner that said they were going to be there and they didn't show up. And basically IA does staff it for us there. So if we don't show up, basically they have someone that's they can work on other tasks, of course, but they're basically, most often they're getting paid overtime. So please definitely make sure to let them know. And if you do schedule it, make sure you show up. And then, it's not all of us go into IA, but many of us, I think, are doing it remotely. I know I pretty much almost always do it remotely, but if you need to go in to listen to any audio files or anything like that, just make sure you book a room. With that, I know I mentioned a little bit earlier, typically every 2 to 3 months, we have a meeting with the chief and leadership at PD, including internal affairs. That was supposed to be held tomorrow, but that's actually the same time as the academy training for the community bus tour, which ironically is the exact same time that I'm supposed to be doing the presentation for the new academy. So we did ask to cancel that and push it back. So right now, as I said, we're looking, I think it's early October is when we're thinking we're going to be having that next meeting. And then once we have that, we will report back to the commission and let you guys know kind of high level what we spoke about. Are there any questions for me? All right, Charmaine, I'll kick it over to you for your executive director report.
Excellent. It looks like we might adjourn early and we're losing commissioners. I better hurry up. So I sent out the spreadsheet of our team assignments earlier today. So I don't know if everyone had a chance to look at the spreadsheet. We started out with 119 total cases assigned to our teams. 37 of those cases are category 2 cases. And the audits of these category 2 cases have been suspended since March due to the backlog of cases and being able to address the backlog of cases. So as a result, the commission has 82 active cases assigned to its teams.
Excuse me, Charmaine,
Yes.
you lost your quorum. If I'm counting correctly, could we just verify? Because if we lost a quorum, we need to stop the meeting. I don't know, I don't see on my screen, I'm only counting 5 of you.
Who is missing?
Could you verify, please?
Count real quick.
Yeah,
I
please.
believe it's 6 currently.
6, I'm sorry, 6.
Someone dropped off the call.
Alina, did anyone reach out to you that they were leaving the meeting?
No.
Let's contact Kevin, Chris. Kevin and Chris so far.
Sending Kevin a text right now.
6, right.
We just need one more person.
You need one more, correct.
Okay. So either Kevin or Chris.
I'm sending a message now.
Thanks, Dwayne, for catching that.
Oh, no problem. I'm just sitting here counting. I'm always counting.
I just noticed people are dropping off. But thank you.
Kevin has a work appointment, so he can't.
So Chair, if we don't get the quorum back, we just need to adjourn the meeting.
Yeah, let's try to give it, we're almost done, but I was hoping to at least have quorum so we could at least get the department report.
Yeah.
Since Chief McGrath stayed here the whole time, I kind of want to, I don't want him to be able to, I don't want him to waste his time.
Correct.
Chris responded and said that his internet just went down, which is why it dropped off. He's trying again.
Okay.
Let's give it a few minutes. I was gonna say, let's give it a few minutes and see if he can hop on.
Okay, so we're gonna leave now. Okay, so let me continue my report. So everyone should have received revised team assignment spreadsheet. Let's see, so now we have 82 active cases, 82, 83. I think there was a case assigned today. And we have at least 4 category 1 cases ready for the commission next week's meeting on August 30th. And then as the chair mentioned, we will not meet virtually from September 2nd through the 12th. So if a team has additional cases for the next agenda, please let me know as soon as possible. Robin will have to get the meeting notices out to the officers tomorrow morning. So this fiscal year that began July 1st, the commission reviewed, deliberated on, and closed out a total of 18 cases, all of which were Category 1 cases. The 18 cases had a total of 113 allegations and 7 other findings. The commission also evaluated 7 disciplines and 1 shooting review board report, and the letter was sent to the chief and the mayor regarding that report. The statistics for the team assignments are as follows. Team 1 has 15 active cases in their folder, 14 are Category 1 cases, 4 of which have 1 or more sustained findings, and 1 officer-involved shooting case. The team also has 7 Category 2 cases, which are on hold. Team 2 is inactive. Team 3 has, well, let me just go back. Team 1, does that sound about correct?
Close, very close.
You have, your team has the 4 cases that's gonna be ready for next week, so your number will be down to 11 active cases.
Okay.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you, Chair Hilbert. Team 3 has 11 active cases in their queue. Of the 11 cases, 9 are Category 1 cases, of which have sustained findings. The team has 2 officer-involved shooting cases. One of those cases were released by SCPD under SB 1421. The team also has 2 Category 2 cases on hold. Team 3 has 1 case ready for the closed agenda. Team 3, does that sound about correct?
That sounds about correct.
Thank you. And Team 4 has 19 active cases in their folder. Of the 19 cases, 1 is an officer-involved shooting case, and the other 18 cases are Category 1 cases. 5 of the Category 1 cases have 1 or more sustained findings. The team also has 15 Category 2 cases, which are on hold. Team 4. Am I correct? You're muted first, Vice Chair Case.
Here. I haven't looked at the spreadsheet today, but that sounds about right. We do have 1 Category 2 that was a fairly serious one. And we are reviewing it and we'll be presenting it to the commission as well. And that's actually in the queue as well. Maybe one of our next cases.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And Team 5, we have no one from Team 5 here tonight. So that team has 16 active cases in their folder. All the 16 cases are Category 1 cases. The Category 1 cases have 1 or more sustained findings. The team also has 6 Category 2 cases, which is still on hold, and no officer-involved shooting cases in their folder. The teams have no in-custody death cases at all assigned to the team, so I just wanted to note that as well. Team 6 has 21 active cases in their queue, all of which are Category 1 cases. 2 of the 21 cases have 1 or more sustained findings, and the team also has 7 Category 2 cases, which are on hold, and no officer-involved shooting cases. Brandon or Commissioner Shea, does that sound about correct?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Team 7 is inactive. So if anyone has any questions regarding the case assignments? Looks like no question, so I can move on to the next item. That's item, I knew she was gonna do this. This dog. Hold on 1 second, please.
I was gonna say what we could do while she's busy for a second, we can probably skip to the former member appreciation acknowledgements that Robin, you've been working on. One of the things we're trying to do is we wanted to hopefully be able to do our former member acknowledgements in person rather than Zoom. And of course, when we first started doing this, we thought that COVID was only going to be a short-term thing, and that did not work out the case. One of the things that we were going to try to do was once we move into our new offices, that we'd basically have the in-person meeting there. And we could also use that as an opportunity to kind of do an open house of our new offices. So the idea is once we can move in, possibly in November, we'd be able to have that meeting. But Robin, do you want to add a little bit more to that?
Yeah, just good news. We did receive a response back from the mayor's office, and Mayor Gloria is very interested in attending our recognition event. So he definitely will be there. However, it does come down to finalizing the date. And so just piggyback what you said. And I know Charmaine mentioned that she'll get in touch with the Department of Real Estate manager to follow up on things like that.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much, okay. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Yes, we've been going back and forth with Karen Johnson from Dream, trying to like work out the logistics and contract and all of that good information. So as we narrow that down, we'll let the commission know. So thank you, Robin, for your update. Next item is the NACO conference. As I've mentioned in the past, we are getting ready to head out to the NACO conference in a few weeks. And we have 4 commissioners attending this in-person conference this year. And we are already planning meetings with other oversight entities just to share information and to learn from them. We are looking forward to this conference. There is also going to be a virtual conference on October 26th, November 2nd, and November 9th, I believe. So we do have some commissioners signed up for that, and that's it for that item. Last item is any reminders or other items. So let me just see if our executive assistant, Alina, has anything that she might want to add. I know she's been working on a lot of things, and one of which is the subscribe and unsubscribe and some other things. Alina?
Yes, hi everyone. So in terms of, any updates and stuff, I know we mentioned the Better Impact System. So that's another thing. I know once a month I send an email, but if you really are having any issues with it, I know it could be a little tricky sometimes. So please feel free to reach out, and I can help with that. In terms of the subscription, we realized that there is no unsubscribe button, so we're working on that right now. So hopefully by tomorrow that will be up.
So Alina, do you want to give a little background
As to what it's for?
Yes, what we're using it for?
Yeah, so if anyone, from the community who wants to receive any updates, like the agenda for the upcoming meetings, or I know that we're going to be adding more to it eventually, but for now it's just, that reminder that we're going to be having a meeting, for example, tonight, with the links and the agenda attached to it. They can go to the CPP website, and it's both on the homepage and on the contact page for them to input their email, and then they can subscribe. We'll receive it, add them to the list, and they'll be a part of that. And then in terms of unsubscribing, they're going to have that option as well. Separate from that, I know, something that we are working on is a manual, right, for our department, for our commission. So it's going to be an operations. I know it's going to be a working document because, as we add to the team, there's going to be more additional, information that needs to be put on there. But that's going to be a fun project that we're going to continue working on.
Excellent, thank you. And that completes our report. Any questions? No questions. That's good. Thank you, everyone.
We do have to go back and revote on approving the memo because we only had 6 people. So we didn't have a quorum. So we need to redo that vote, unfortunately. So going back a couple steps, we were making a policy recommendation memo. The motion was made by myself, Brandon, and it was seconded by Nancy. And so we just have to do a vote now that we have our full 7 people for quorum.
Sorry, I don't know if I counted.
That might have been my error. I think I had Kevin Harrington listed as a yes, and then I had Steve Shea, Commissioner Shea, as excused. So I think we did have the 7 votes.
We did?
So, yes. So I apologize. We had Commissioner Case, we had Commissioner Vaughn, Commissioner Dent, Spruce, so that's 4. Commissioner Shank, it's 5, and then we had Chair Hilbert and Commissioner Pink, so 7-0.
Okay.
Charmaine, I don't think my name was called during that vote, but since it passed, so I didn't speak up.
Oh, okay,
No.
so maybe I don't know. So we can go ahead and just do a revote really fast. If that works for everyone.
I was gonna say, let's just make it official. So, yeah.
Okay, let's do that. First Vice Chair Case,
Yes.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Yes.
Commissioner Dent,
Yes.
Commissioner Spruce,
Yes.
Commissioner Shang,
Yes.
Chair Hilbert,
I'll vote yes.
and Commissioner Pink. Can you see if you can unmute?
I was gonna say, Chris, since you're on your phone, I think you have to do *6 to unmute yourself.
Maybe you can test.
I was gonna say, or Chris, if you want, go ahead and you can text me what your vote is, and then I can just let everybody know.
Well, I thought this was gonna be simple.
It's the curse of technology. And here we thought we might actually end early.
Yeah, well, did we have 7 the first time we voted?
We had 7, but then Steve didn't vote, and I thought he voted, and I marked him down as yes.
You know, technically we have 7 members here, so we have quorum, and we only need 6. We just have to have a majority to pass it. So we don't have to have the 7, but we just have to have 7 here in attendance, which we do. So even if Chris doesn't vote, that can still move forward.
Dwayne, that's fine off from Dwayne.
Right.
That's
Dwayne, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry, Chair. You can just count that as an abstention or a non-participation at this point in time.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry, I was here. I thought you were talking to Commissioner Pink, I'm sorry.
So I'm going to have that as a 6-0-1
Yes,
to pass. Okay,
correct.
got it. Just trying to be
Great, thank
legit. All right, and with that, now we can kick it over to Chief McGrath for his police department report.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody. Glad to be with you tonight. Just kind of just before I kind of start with my some of the things that are on the agenda, I just want to say that hopefully you're very, very proud of your police department for the last couple of days, that 29-hour standoff that we had over there off of 600 West Street. I'm sure you've seen in the news what the situation was over there. We did have officers that were standing behind a truck that were fired on by the suspect and were able to, well, obviously not be hurt. But over the next 28 hours, along with the emergency negotiations team and with SWAT, we're able to eventually get our suspect into custody with very minor injuries on the suspect, very minor injuries to a couple of our officers. And then we had a dog that was suffering some heat stroke that we needed to get some emergency care for. But speaking about our canines, as you know, you're also seeing that in the last 2 months, we've had 3 of our dogs have been seriously wounded by suspects with bladed instruments. And so we're down about 3 dogs right now and hoping to get them back online once they feel a little bit better. But very, very proud of our officers and the units that went out there and did the very best they could to de-escalate the situation and get it resolved without any injuries. So I'll just lead with that. So on the status of the cabinet meeting with San Diego PD training captain, and I know Brandon, you've been kind of working with Wes Morris on this and communicating with him. I talked to Tom Underwood, who is the chief over training and backgrounds and recruiting. And he reminded me that, with the department's ongoing efforts to be transparent and to always try to build community trust. In April 16th of 2021, we had put out a department order that talked about department policy 1.04, which told all sworn personnel that they'll show of force incidents in addition to the use of force. And in that order, it kind of talked a little bit about how they were going to be going in and receiving some training, talking about blue team and about the ability to be able to put those incidents in to that program. So one of the issues that has come up is, why hasn't this been put out for the public review? And it really just simply comes down to AB 26, which is the Assembly bill, which has to deal with duty to report. So rather than, and this is at the advice of our legal counsel, rather than put something out that's going to have to be changed or altered in a couple of weeks, it's better that we just get the direction from how we're going to be moving forward with the changes in AB 26 and implement them in 1.04 altogether. And so that's what we're doing. Captain Jeff Jordan, who's our legislative captain, and his responsibility is he has RAP. I had a good conversation with him about a few things today. One of them was this 1.04, and he assures me that they're getting kind of at the finish line with this, and they're hoping to get it finished off, and then they'll be able to post it to the public website. The other thing is 4.17 policy was posted, but we had to redact it because we found some grammatical errors and some errors in content. And so we're fixing those. And as soon as we fix them, we'll get them right back on the public website for you. And then other than that, Brandon, I just want to kind of ask you, because I know that there's been some requests to speak with Captain Morris. Have you been having conversations with him and be able to get your questions answered?
No, I haven't really been reaching out directly to him. I've been trying to go through you in your office. But I have kept him CC'd on the emails, but really I think the only one that was going through that he was included on was just that request of when will the show of force go into effect and when will that be a requirement for officers. So yeah, I think you kind of answered that question, but I haven't been going directly to anybody because I know you want to be aware of what's going on when requests are going to the department. So I've tried to always keep you involved in all those.
Yeah, and also just so you know, I mean, I don't have a problem with you reaching out to Wes. I mean, but one of the things that I think is important is that Tom Underwood, the Assistant Chief of Training and Backgrounds, has an opportunity to kind of be part of those meetings. And so if you need to talk to Captain Morris, I absolutely would encourage that. And I'll let the chief know tomorrow that you'll be reaching out to him if you'd like to.
Okay. Yeah, no, he was CC'd on that email too, but I haven't set up any meetings with any of them. But thanks for the option to do that. I think it's my understanding was from what you guys shared with us, because as you just said, with AB 26, there's some prohibitions and training related issues that were coming into play. And we were just kind of asking if there was an ETA on when that might be implemented. And you were kind of saying it's in the queue and it's pending your legal feedback. So we get that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And I'd just say, as you find out dates, if you would be willing to just share that with us when you have a heads up, that would be much appreciated.
Okay, I will. And then on the second item here, it's CRB recommendation. We're going way back here to April 2017 for some, at the time, CRB recommendations. And maybe you can refresh my memory a little bit, Brandon, about what that recommendation was totally, because I went back and looked at all the written recommendations that we received. I couldn't find it, but I mean, if you have a written recommendation that you can send me, that would be helpful. But it's just off the top of your head. If you remember what those recollections were, I'll take some notes and then we'll go do some research.
Yeah, so I think, and I'll find, Charmaine might have sent it, I don't know, maybe a month or so ago, but we had basically asked, and at the time it was Chief Zimmerman had agreed that we as the commission, the oversight board, would be able to review all canine use of force complaints. Because right now, and again, please correct me if I'm incorrect, my understanding is IA doesn't do those investigations, the K9 unit does. And so we wanted to make sure that we were able to get those complaints as well, because it kind of goes through a different process than what we typically do when we're doing our review. So we'll find those documents, that recommendation we sent over, and we'll forward that over to you. I think the question was, there was a case that came up that made us kind of think, hey, we haven't seen any of these in quite a while. And we just wanted to make sure that if there were complaints regarding canine use of force, that we were still using those, or we were still reviewing those as we all had agreed to previously. Doug, I see.
So here's kind of in a nutshell, and I'll just kind of give you an overview of how we're investigating these through internal affairs.
Speaking of dogs.
Is that the canine unit there?
That's my dog Snowball. So the way we kind of do these things is, number one, anytime there's a bite, let's say there's no complaint, but there's a bite. And well, even if there is a complaint, if there's a bite, period, what happens is that the supervisor will review the bite for policy violations and for violations of our operational manual. And then we'll also take a look at any training issues that have come up. If the sergeant during that review finds that there's a possibility that the officer utilized the dog incorrectly, and it could be construed as excessive force, the sergeant will take that bite report and investigation and give it to internal affairs for the investigation. So, because it is a use of force, and it is technically, it's an internal complaint. If somebody is bit by a dog as a suspect, and the suspect believes that the dog was used improperly and it became excessive force, it's the same way that we would receive any other Category 1 complaint from a citizen. It's an excessive force complaint, it's a Category 1 complaint, and it goes to internal affairs. Now, let's say that during a review, the sergeant finds that there's no policy violation, that there's no operational manual violations, all the training was adhered to. However, the suspect that was bitten to a point where they required that they needed to be to go to the hospital because they had a serious injury, or they were going to be hospitalized overnight. Then what we would do is we would send internal affairs to the hospital to do the investigation. And that's really basically because of knowing that down the line, there's going to be some sort of civil recourse that the suspect is going to ask for. And so we do an investigation to make sure that we're clear on the facts and able to interview everybody that was involved at the time. Does that kind of make sense to everybody, or does anybody have any questions about that?
I think it more or less makes sense. I think it's just we hadn't seen any for quite a while, which just made us wonder if we were actually getting those. So Doug, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I think I was chair at the time that this issue came up. At the time, the canine unit was doing an investigation, but it was never getting to the commission. And the agreement that was made was that the investigation of the canine unit would be sent to internal affairs, and then internal affairs would do a normal IA investigation and send the report on to onto the CRB, now the CPP, to to respond to, just like we do any other complaint. There were a couple of other agreements. One was that the CRB would be trained, and we invited in the canine unit to do a training, and it may be appropriate to, because we've had a lot of turnover, to have a retraining of the commission. Another agreement that was made was that anytime there was a canine case that was being reviewed by the review board or the commission, that we would invite somebody from the canine unit to participate in that discussion in case there were any questions. So that was what the agreement that was made, but it was never put in writing, and we would appreciate if we could have some type of acknowledgement of that agreement.
So yeah, so I really don't think that's a problem, Doug, what you're talking about as far as having a canine officer as part of this investigation. We quite frequently will use our subject matter experts on an investigation, as you know, whether they're use of force experts, traffic experts, or even canine officers, trainers, sergeants alike are often interviewed as those subject matter experts. So we don't have a problem with that at all. But just, a dog bite alone does not necessarily translate into an investigation because it's a use of force. And if the use of force is applied properly, or if there's no complaint about the force, then it's the same as somebody who's, using a wrist lock on a suspect to get him into custody. If they've used the technique properly and there's no complaint of excessive force, then there's no reason to push that onto the commission to have them investigate anything, because there technically is no complaint.
Okay, I guess, well, two things. Yes, our initial agreement was with complaints. So that if there was a complaint regarding a dog bite, that would go through internal affairs and then on to review board or the commission. And the issue was that when the review board or commission heard that case, that we would invite somebody from the K-9 unit there to advise us or explain issues to us regarding the procedures of the K-9 unit, since that's kind of a specialty situation. And I guess the issue arose because it's been several years since a K-9 case has come before the review board or the commission, and it's hard to believe that nobody's complained about a dog bite during that period of time, but perhaps, I don't know.
Well, how about this? Why don't we add this to the agenda when we have the meeting with the chief, and we can discuss a little bit further there. I mean, I don't think we have to belabor it here. So we'll just add that to our agenda items. Chief McGrath, was there anything else you wanted to touch base on?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. I don't know if there's any commissioner ride-along reports. I'm not aware of anyone doing any, but people don't ask me for permission as they don't need to. But if anyone wants to kind of give a quick summary of what their ride-along was, that'd be great. And if not, I would recommend anyone who would like to do one, please work with IA, Detective Amato, to get those scheduled. I think they're a very important part of us seeing the other side of law enforcement. Since obviously we see things from body cameras, I think it's important for us to be out in the field and kind of see how that works too. So did anyone have any ride-along reports? All right, not seeing any. Are there any commissioner announcements or comments you'd like to make? All right, also not seeing any of those. We are done early. So I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 7:37. Have a great night.
Bye.
Appreciate everyone's time.
Good night.